Welcome to R&R Showtime with Robert.
And Ryan,
And today we are going to talk about Stranger Things finale. We're going to get right into it. We're going to keep it tight and we're going to hit hard because this season was okay.
yeah, it was fine. I
It
got my
was,
Stranger Things sweater.
yeah, he's
But
repping
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, it was a fine season overall. A fine finale to a cultural phenomenon-ish of a show.
Yep. It was the
Um,
cultural event of our generation. One of, I mean,
well,
not
the
like the
second
only,
one,
but
but
the second one.
this one had a better finale than the other one.
Is the other one the plague?
Da 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 da.
Um, but okay, I want to touch on there's some things that I've been repeating, right? Talk with Angela a bit about it, talk with some of the friends, and I've basically watched like no videos on this or listened to anybody talk about it. But Angela was watching lots of theories and lots of little thingies on there, so I was getting a little feed of that from her. But I'm gonna say think about this season. Okay, let's throw out a few things. One, these kids look too old, and they are. They
Yeah.
were apparently
Yeah.
once I understood how old they actually were, they were like 15 and a half or 16. And I'm like, this was a stretch. This was a stretch. However, I'm just gonna give this to room to say that back in the 80s, they used to do the same thing, and they didn't even try to make them look like they were, teenagers. So, granted that, that was fine. That wasn't really the biggest deal. What
Hmm.
I want to say, I want to capture something that I've been saying about this last season is that early in Stranger Things, right, in the first three seasons primarily, especially the first two seasons, there was a certain kind of charm that the kids brought. The kids, being children, like being young
Yes.
kids, they had a certain kind of charm. There was a mystery, like a real mystery, especially in the first season, right? When it was really like, what is going on here? And that still went on. We were able to expand that a little bit and keep some of the curiosity and like, oh, I'm seeing these things develop, but we still don't understand exactly where it's all coming from. It's still, very other and, monstrous and things. And there was a nostalgia, there was a vibe. Like the 80s vibe was great. And that was actually prominent in the third season, right? That was one of probably the most like, this is the 80s
Well, the
feelings.
whole time the show was definitely ripping on some 80s nostalgia because if that first season like has definitely a lot of DNA from stuff like E.T.
Hmm.
or there's more than just E.T. in there, but I think that's the most glaring
Yeah.
one. There's so much so that there's a bicycle chase.
Yeah, and again, granted that like it's never stopped like ripping on the 80s, but there was something like we were being transported back. And because it's funny because obviously it's like 80s, but also like everything is cleaner, crisper, modern, like modern looks and shots and things. And so it's like it's almost like making the 80s like more approachable for the modern day. Um, which it's not like things from the 80s have just like faded away entirely. They're not like some ancient early 1900s type thing.
A
But
thing I've heard said about Stranger Things is that it gives people nostalgia for the 80s, specifically people that were not alive during the 80s.
yes, yeah. Um, but the point is, like those three pieces are things that were diminished significantly in the fourth season, but by the fourth season, we still had a strong development of the overarching plot. Like really, like in the fourth season, we were hitting a denouement of what had been set up through these other seasons. And that carried us forward, even if it was missing some of the charm. That mystery was gone. Like they were literally revealing the things like, oh, here's the big bad guy, like the big bad guy behind it all. There's not much mystery anymore, right? The kids are
Yeah.
no longer kids. They are like, teenagers. They're having their relationships and all these issues and things. And again, 80s is there and stuff. We're just kind of firmly in like a fantasy sci-fi like, thing, right? But it's still fine because we're at this, like the delivery of this new big creature being there. Season 5 lacks all the charm. it, there is no mystery, and even when they try to keep making like, whoa, there's still something to discover, nothing seems mysterious. No, there's no curiosity, and and then further, like again, like yeah, 80s, but like 80s has just been pushed to the background. It's there we're no longer really touching on or caring about that as nostalgia. It's just this is just a conclusion. We're here to tell you a story, everyone, and we need to show you how this all works out.
But
And
what do you
so
mean? What do you mean? Sarah Connor's there and she's adding that.
yeah, and so that those I'm just touching on like those are almost these things that I've come to understand why does season five feel so meh? Why does it feel again when I watched the season finale, I remember just thinking that was good enough. But like I didn't feel, like let me say that there were still some heartstring moments in this final season. Um and again, the ending was good enough, but for something that was a cultural event, this didn't feel culturally event satisfying. I didn't feel like I was
No.
like, oh wow, that was it. That was the end of Stranger Things. Huzzah, right? And and I wouldn't even say I was like super excited. I wasn't like, oh my God, guys, Stranger Things is coming out. But I was like, wow, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing how this wraps up, right? I want to see the conclusion here, right? There's been a long time coming. So those are 3 points I identify as things that are just absolute those are missing. And that's why this last season feels, like they did their best, but it feels hollow.
Yeah, I
What do you think about
think
that?
I think you are definitely on a correct sort of thought process when it comes to this final season. Well, quick question: have you rewatched any of the other seasons, or are you like single watch on everything?
Rewatched all of them right before we watched this.
Okay,
Yep.
after the first part of season five came out, I was like, I am gonna try and rewatch stuff, and I rewatched seasons one through three, and then I ran out of time to do season four. But I felt like season four at least was recent enough. In rewatching those seasons, I it is glaring how much charm was lost by having these little kids grow up, but like that's an unavoidable thing that we were always gonna have to deal with that. But the thing is that season four was solid and they already were looking like adults there. So like that's not the whole thing.
Yeah. I think them looking older is such a minor thing. If it was better, nobody would even care. Nobody would even care. Everybody would just be like, yeah, sure, this works. They're fine. But it's like amongst a bunch of other little things, all the little things stand out.
I think another thing is the phenomena of child or teen actors doing a good job in their youth at acting, but not necessarily being able to carry that into adulthood.
Yes.
Because there are certainly acting performances, and maybe it's just in like they're just not giving it in this, but there are definitely some performances in some of these actors that when they were kids they were great, but like now it's like, this is not the best.
Yeah.
This is not there are some of the kids that are still pounding on that are still like, hey, this give this
Mhm.
person opportunities, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little and some of the and I think it also could be down to the writing. I feel
Hmm.
like a lot of the one thing I have heard a lot of people comment on, and I do agree with, is how much of this season is exposition and how much of it
Oh my
is
God.
like Robin on the radio telling a town of people stuff that they maybe already you would think no, but they need to have heard give an
Yeah.
exposition dump and like have everybody come together to clarify all this stuff. And that is stuff present in other seasons, but this time it just feels like so much more. And the fact that the runtimes of the episodes are so inflated, it's like we already knew this. You could like say that they explained it to them. Every other like
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. I want to hit three other pieces, and these are more like in the movie craft realm of reasons why things aren't as good as they could have been. I think one, we have a you built up a lot of stuff and now it's finish it all in a season. And I think they really just didn't, show don't tell, but they didn't know how to show while keeping it all into this amount of time. And so they literally were like, we need to just make sure we communicate. Like we don't have 30 extra minutes of runtime. We don't have, we don't have enough time to show you more of this. We need to just tell you exactly what's happening so you can understand and we can move on, right? We're just going to take 10 minutes and lay it out there. So because of not having enough time, they had to tell us, right? Showing takes time. Showing takes time and
No,
and
that's the
and
thing.
precise
They did
writing.
show it. A lot of the time they did show us. We
Mhm.
already could have gathered stuff, but they still had to explain it because of and this is a general Netflix thing of Netflix making their program so that people say out loud what's going on so that the people watching Netflix, the way that programming is intended to be watched by scrolling on your phone while watching something so that
Mhm.
they can pick up on the stuff that they missed because they weren't
Yes.
paying full attention.
I've heard of
That
this
is like an
phenomenon.
actual that is an actual phenomena, and it's become more egregious this season. And that is an explanation as to why that is occurring.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate when this is, for a lot of people, it is the put my phone down show.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need that.
Yeah.
I Let's talk about the finale itself. And one thing I want to touch on, and I think I saw like an article title saying that the Duffers were inspired by Lord of the Rings for the finale, and like I feel like I did not look at that article, but in my mind I'm like it is in the sense that Return of the King had a very long ending where like you need to satisfy every plot thread, so you have the world's longest ending. That finale is 2.5 hours long. I want to say an hour of it is spent after they've already
That's
beat
literally
the bad guy.
I said this exact like we were watching it and they chop Vecna's head. I don't know, whatever. Spoilers.
Yeah.
They chop Vecna's head off. If you haven't seen it, I don't know why you're doing watching this. They chop his head off, and I literally was like, and like we clicked the thing and saw there's still an hour left, and we're like, what are they about to do for an hour?
I was able to watch it in the theaters and I was like, "Oh my God, that means the government is the big bad, that they're gonna now do the big
Yes.
government thing."
And then in fact, no, everybody, government did nothing. You literally killed, murdered multiple military persons, and totally disrupted these major operations. But I guess everybody just gets to go free. I'm just saying, massive, ridiculous plot point. Like total, like I'm just, and this season is full of plot points that are again, if you had one or two little things, you would be like, whatever, no big deal, but it's multiple. It's just like that is there's no reason the government just says, let's just let you guys all go back. We're just gonna take all our stuff and let you kids just go back and have a good life and nothing is different and nobody's going to jail, nobody's facing any repercussions.
Literally,
Who cares?
all that the government's presence served to do is give a reason for 11 to do a self-sacrifice, but in a specific way where that the self-sacrifice could be potentially didn't happen, which like again, like that is meant to be my so 11 maybe surviving is maybe Mike just coming up with that story as the storyteller. Um, I I legitimately think I prefer the option that 11 actually died. I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
I think
better.
I think
And,
they were being cowardly to not just let her be dead. I think
and that's
that
a
one of my other 2 points of like why is this season from like a big TV show making point is I think people's contracts and their acclaim to fames were getting in the way of like what this show is going to do. And I think literally like Millie Bobby Brown was like, my character can't die. No way. I want
I
this
don't
and I
no,
want that.
look, I don't think it's that. I think that the Duffers didn't want to make anybody sad by killing off any of their beloved characters. And that is
Cowards.
something like from the first season, there's like a core 10 fucking characters that have been that like I was like, you got to kill off one of them. You got to kill off someone from season one in this finale. And I didn't think that they would pick 11, and in a way they didn't. But 11 is the closest we get to someone dying that theoretically didn't die. But like when you like do you know that in the original season, in the season one, there was supposed to be a character death, but they found the actor charming, so they kept him around, and that character was Steve.
Didn't know that. No, but
I believe
respect
that
because I like Steve. I'm glad he made it this long.
Yeah, and he got a fake out death. Wasn't that fun?
Oh yeah, so great, so great. Huh. Cut to black. It was almost like guaranteed he's not dead because you cut to black and you didn't just like let him die. Also, it
Yeah,
wasn't a great death. Like I understand like if you're gonna kill somebody, kill him like in a and you want to make it good, kill him in a way that makes sense. 11 dying would have been fine. It would have been fine. It would have felt tragic. It would have felt like
yeah.
everybody really had to live with that. And I think they were cowards by creating a way out. That was pretty much the only point of Kali. That was her entire function or purpose, basically to give Elle like a reason, like you need to maybe sort of die, and then to be a functionary for that death.
I almost feel
Um,
bad for Kali and her actress because, like, if you really think about it, every worst episode of Stranger Things has
yeah,
her in it.
yeah, correct. So
Like, and I don't think it's necessarily her fault, but it is a pattern.
I mean, yeah, is it about her? No, but like
No.
it is a little bit. So there's just so many things. I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is just like a dump on Stranger Things type thing. There is good. I don't want to be like it's all bad, but those are the things that like I expected Stranger Things to be good. And so all these glaring like not good enough pieces all mount up and I feel like I just want to express frustrations, right? I'm just trying to try and rapid fire a few criticisms, right? One, yeah, multiple exposition points. Literally, the Jonathan Nancy uh unproposal, ridiculous. The Max not running for the portal and spending 10
Oh
minutes
my
talking to
fucking
Holly,
God.
the most absolutely
All of the walking.
the most absolutely ridiculous, non-urgent like moment makes no sense. The fact that Max was even in some sense like brought back this season, it's like what was even some of the point of her? But you know what? Like I get it, Max. Like she was cool, important. Let's find a way to help her survive. She ended up having a great like role, like guiding Holly through the thing. So that made sense. Kali made I don't even know why she needed to be brought back. It was just like, oh, do you remember guys? Remember Kali? She's a character. Too many characters, period. Them
Yeah.
trying to give like over a dozen characters some kind of ending and involvement in the end really just led to a bunch of people being there for no reason. The fight with the massive fight at the end, where two boys go underneath a creature so large and massive that if it just went and we have seen it hit the ground, they would just be dead. They would be utterly flattened, and they run up to go pop a couple zits on its freaking on its underbelly.
How
Like,
did uh, th- how did when Nancy went to lure the Mind Flayer into that sort of the chasm between two cliffs? How the fuck did they get on top of these cliffs?
yeah,
How? Literally, how? Literally, it makes no sense
yeah,
whatsoever.
no sense. Um, and then like the fight with the actual ending with Vecna, pretty actually okay, cool, decent. Like those functions of it where they're like, we're all gonna like shoot guns at it and like throw, like honestly, the Molotovs and stuff were like, okay, that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
these things are sensitive to fire. Like that makes sense.
I
They're
like
like,
that the
we're
Mind
gonna.
Flayer had a role. I like that the Mind Flayer was, in a way, the big bad all along for real.
I do also like that. I want to say though, it's like a little bit of almost like a circle it back rewrite to be like, aha, but it was actually the Mind Flayer. Vecna maybe wasn't the bad guy. And it's like, just let him be like psychotic and evil. We were all fine with that. We didn't need him to
But
also be sympathetic. Like,
the thing is though is that like in rewatching seasons 1 through 3, the Mind Flayer is the bad like to have him not even like be a thing, like, oh, this was just like a weird soldier that had all of the prominence and did everything for the first 3 seasons.
yeah, I actually like it. I think it was a great way to like bring it in and be like the Mind Flayer was important. Vecna and Mind Flayer together, both like doing thing, and they had like two separate functions of it. And I just think it was like for it to kind of for them to almost imply or leave the room to be like, oh, well, he was actually just a troubled boy being controlled. You have to resist it. Like they didn't need to add all that. They didn't need to add that. It should honestly, I think it would have been way more respectable if in that moment, like, the inner like turmoil of the boy was like, oh my God, power. Like I can get power. I can, and if they used that, I would have actually respected it a lot more. If they just like leaned into let him be like bad guy, not like, oh, he's actually kind of he could have been a good guy. He could have been an okay. He was just a boy. He's trying to help him. That guy shot him in the hand. You know, it's like again, whatever. Like it's that's not the biggest point to harp on, but that is um that is a thing. What I will say though is that it almost feels in some ways like a little anticlimactic when the Vecna fight comes down. Like it doesn't feel quite like they could have. I wish they had spent a little more time just making it really feel earned. Like it really was just like, all right, we all showed up at the same time and we beat that guy down.
I
Good
think it was
thing,
always gonna be hard though. I think it was always gonna be hard to figure out a way to make the battle exciting when you only have one character that can do anything to the bad guy. Like to give like we see over and over again that weapons do nothing to these upside down creatures, like because the military does, like when they fire their weapons it does dookie, it does
yeah,
nothing. So like at the end of the day, what they're all doing is meaningless if Eleven can't do her thing and if Will isn't able to do his his new power thing that gets supercharged by being gay.
yeah. Let me touch on the so like big scene, right? The coming out scene. I want to say that scene
Controversial.
controversial. I don't know what everybody says online. My personal opinions are one, that scene was powerful. I thought it really was like just what it was like the delivery and stuff was like wow this gives feels like it gives me an insight into what it would be like or what it would feel like for somebody to come out again in the context of the 80s when it
Yeah,
was far more taboo and far more of a thing. um my biggest gripe, and I even had somebody say they were like, I think it was fine. My biggest gripe is why did you call like all dozen of your team who are actively getting
literally,
ready for like a
literally.
super a dimensional space fight? You're like, I need everybody to sit down and listen to
Nah,
this real quick. I need you all to
nah,
pause. I'm like,
wild.
what the are you guys like? And somebody was trying to give me the explanation. They were trying to defend it a little bit, and I was, I get it. They were like, oh well, he needed to express it to everybody. He really needed to get it out there to take power back. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't feel like you need to tell everybody to get power back. I feel like if you told the few people that are important, you call the main, folks in there, right? Maybe get 11, get Mike, sure, get Dustin and Lucas too, and then your mom and your brother. Call
Yeah.
them in there, right? Call
I,
call these core people in here, and everybody else can keep fucking getting ready.
I think you could have Robin in there too, just because I feel like she has that sort of thing. But then I think that's sort of where it's weird. But yeah,
Let me say,
I
I really
found
thought to myself, I really said to myself, I was like, do you think Jim Hopper gives a fuck? Like, do you think he gives a fuck about if you're gay or not? I could imagine him just being like, is this what we're fucking here doing right now? I'm literally trying to get ready to die or go fight to the death. I'm gonna go shoot some men in like literally an hour. But yeah, granted,
but
again,
yeah,
the placement is the placement and bringing all those people together. The timing is poor. I wish that they had done it, and I wish they made it just a little more intimate. Like again, this is my
yeah.
personal thing. Make it more intimate with just those, like make it almost like a little bit of an outburst, not like a pre-planned thing, but a little bit of like I have to tell you something, like with like just Mike and his mom, like
Honestly, I think in my opinion it should have been Joyce and Jonathan.
Joyce and
Like,
Jonathan, yeah. I think it just should have been something like that, and it should have just been a little more of a reaction and then like a release. Um,
yeah.
but
And
again,
then you
like
could just wave away that he maybe tells everybody else or like that it's like I don't know. Yeah, it
you could
didn't need
even
to
have made it
happen.
simple as this. You could have made it like a real great like moment right there, and then later you have like Lucas and Dustin show up and be like, hey, you know, Mike told us, man, and we just want to let you know, like, we're right behind you. Or they all just show up and give him that moment where they're like, where he's like, oh wow, guys, thanks, and then
Well, that I
cool,
mean
like,
the someone else telling other people that
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah,
work.
you're right, but
But yeah, so again, like they were kind of in a tough place there because it kind of had to happen. They had to do it. Like they because they let it rewatching from season one. to have episode one of season one have the line where Joyce Byers says, "Well, his dad thinks that he's gay." Like the shit that was from the first episode that they were like, "This is a little queer kid."
Whoa, really? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, literally, she's just like, well, because he's artsy, and he's but she has the line like that the deadbeat dad like didn't like was harsh on him because he thought he was a little queer or something
Yeah.
like that.
Also, my gaydar is like I literally. I mean, I had to. Angela had to tell me like very specifically, like at the end of the third season, where I was like, "Wait a minute, he's supposed to be gay?" Like, and she was like, "Yeah, like he was. That was literally in the fourth season." Like, and I was like, "Really? Is that what
Yeah,
that was
well,
about?"
the fourth season was like third season they started the real hinting at it, and fourth season was where it's like this is obviously very clear.
My gaydar is non-existent. So,
it, it many people were aware. Also, one thing I do think is crazy is that there are a lot of people who thought that Will and Mike were going to end up together. Like they actually thought that was going to happen, and that's the dumbest shit ever. Like
I don't
y'all,
know. 11. See, they could have let it run that way. 11's out of the way.
it just fundamentally misunderstands a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I don't want to dwell on that. There's a lot of stuff. How about getting back to that very long ending?
Mhm.
Um, we get to see how a lot of the people resolve, but focusing on the sort of core people, we got a Joyce and a Hopper getting hitched and moving out of town. I think that it's fine.
Yeah.
The teenagers all getting their sort of jobs and futures in the world, but staying together, and Steve being staying in town, being a coach, very wholesome. And then we get the D&D game, which I think is the best. Like it's the kind of thing where you believe that they had that plan
Mhm.
from the beginning,
Yeah.
and it like was definitely the best thing that and it's good that they sort of end on that, especially the seeing the younger kids, Holly and her friends, go down to carry it on.
Mhm.
That is a good way to end it on.
That I agree. I said that was exactly the way they should have ended it. With it started with the D&D game, ended with the D&D game. That was great. I think the run-on ending, everybody I think they tied everything up. I really
Yeah.
think they gave everything an ending. They let everybody have a resolution very clearly. Like if you're gonna let this run on and give all these exposition dumps, then yeah, like spend some time and make sure everybody gets their resolution. And I like the context of like Mike describing everybody's stories. Like he just said, he just says everybody moves on in their own direction, and we acknowledge this is the end of the adventures, and life goes on as it will and whatnot. But um yeah, again, this is why when I got to the end, all these glaring little things, but overall, and like this is where I'm like circling back to like saying good things about it, is that
Hmm.
with something that becomes so big, it is tough to stick the landing. And I think it's like there's so many glaring little this and that's, but in the end, I think they gave us all something that we were able to walk away from it with and just be like satisfied. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't perfect. Like you know what I'm gonna say? It's not the end of Game of Thrones.
That's kind of that's ex yeah, I so after watching the finale, I because they have the finale episode on Letterboxd, and I went and I made a review. First of all, I gave it 3.5 stars out of 5.
Mm.
Maybe that's being nice, but it's messy. And so what I wrote, I said season 5 will go down as Stranger Things' weakest season, but I think this finale had enough going for it to keep it from being like Game of Thrones.
Yep.
Um,
Huh.
it's not perfect, but it has heart, and I think that's what I needed to close out 2025.
Word. I respect
And
that.
yeah, like look, like there's so much there it you I think it really comes down to people I think we all kind of wanted it to be a little better. We wanted it to be a little more satisfying. I I get that it's not what they wanted, but they really should have considered killing off someone to have some sort of
Yes.
really emotional beat. Um,
Yes.
I believe that that killing off Jonathan Byers would have been the best option to have the biggest sort of emotional impact, sort of ripple through people without it being like truly devastating. Because the one, if there was one character I knew was not dying, and it was Will Byers, because this entire show was the Save Will Byers show from season one. So if Will did not make it out, that it would have been stupid. But if his like brother, if he lost his brother and like to have that and have Joyce lose one son, like begin the show losing his son, end the show, I feel like there's a lot of potential. I also feel like Nancy could have been a very tragic death that
Hmm.
could have affected a lot of people, but at the end of the day, they didn't want something
They were
too
cowards.
sad.
They were cowards. I think they were
Yeah.
just they were cowards. They were afraid to make waves or make people upset. I think you're right. I think what could have been a fantastic plot point to follow that would have made a lot of sense is that Nancy and Jonathan reconcile and are moving towards being together. And
Oh, no,
Will co-
I think them breaking up was correct.
I think it was
Everything
correct
led
in
up.
this context, but
Yeah.
let me run with this. I think Jonathan and Nancy are reconciling and they're moving in the direction of being together. Will comes out and gets massive support from his brother. Jonathan and Steve have a rivalry, but ultimately Steve says, "You know what? I get it, and you're good for her." Right?
With Jonathan saving his life.
With Jonathan saving his life. And then in the very end, Jonathan sacrifices himself to save, like, basically to be like one, like, we have to do it now, like, and we won't get back, or something like that. Jonathan sacrifices himself. And it's a massive blow to everybody, including like everybody's like, oh my God. Jonathan just died. We lose somebody who ultimately like wasn't like a character anybody's going to care that much about losing, but we have a great emotional impact because of how supportive he was with his brother, the relationship he was going to have with Nancy, and whatever, like, and it's a huge blow to us, but it's something we're able to take. We feel like they literally, were willing to raise the stakes and let somebody die, and we get that. I'm this whole time, me and Angela were going back and forth saying this person's going to die, no, it's going to be this person, no, it's going to be that person, right? Oh, maybe it'll be them, maybe it'll be this person. Like, I
Yeah.
think everybody wanted, not like we literally want somebody to
We
die, but
no one wanted, you don't want these people to die, but you expect it
yeah.
because it's weird because it's like if you really look back at the show, they never really set that precedent that they were ever gonna kill off a character because
Mhm.
they've never done it outside of like the one or two select character deaths this season. Like you get your Barb, you get your Bob, you get your Eddie.
Mhm.
Like literally there's like a token character they introduce to get people to like just so that they can kill him off
Yeah.
in most seasons.
Yeah, and I think they should have been.
They didn't even do that. This was there a new character introduced? They didn't kill fucking Delightful Derek.
Yeah, of course they wouldn't, but I think I'm just throwing out like a flow of how that could have worked in a way that actually would have added more impact. I think that would have made the season more emotionally impactful and better, and ultimately cut down one character we didn't have to resolve. Like, let Nancy's resolution be she ends up with freaking Steve because Jonathan's not there
No,
anymore. Like,
again,
what
again.
you
So it's really you kind of missing the point of Nancy if you think she was
I
supposed to end
understand. I
up with
get the
either
point
of
of
them.
Nancy. I'm not saying I'm throwing out an alternative
Well,
universe
she doesn't
where
have to end up with Steve just because she said just because
I'm
Jonathan
throwing out
dies.
an alternative. I'm not saying she has to.
Your alternative is bad, is what I'm telling you.
You're bad.
Because I'm bad.
Um,
Um,
but the
so
point being is that would have been a way to go. Killing somebody would have been good. I think they were cowards. They should have done it. They were afraid. Make everybody happy, and ultimately nobody happy because of that.
but at least it wasn't Game of Thrones. Okay, so
I
some
agree.
things so looking more holistically at the show, I gotta ask you, how would you sort of rank every season of Stranger Things?
Um, Stranger Things one is like in probably like maybe nostalgia factor, but practically an A plus. Like for what it was just good. Season two and A minus. Season three, B plus. Season four, a B minus, and this season was probably barely a C plus.
So for you, you have it as like a slow decline overall. Like you
I
have a
think over
unique,
time they lose. I mean, like the third season like maximizes 80s nostalgia, but like I think they're losing charm. And the first two seasons, the mystery and the charm of the kids was the absolute biggest like performer. And they slowly lost that through the seasons. It's hard to capture like that true mystery from the very first one. Um, so I
I
think
gotta
it.
be
Go
I
ahead.
gotta be honest. I think that prior to season five, because season five is the weakest season, but right above it is season two. I think season two was actually, I think season two has maybe the best scene of the show, which is the dance ending at like the prom. I think that's one of the maybe the show's peak, but I think the season as a whole was really like in its sort of sophomore slump. And I feel like season four had a lot going for it. And I there's something about season three, and I think it might just be that Robin's a really good character and we get more of Max and stuff. But season three would be my second favorite, with one, of course, kind of being the peak of the show, unfortunately. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot going for it in season three and season four.
Again, I think that's fair. I don't think I like what I'm saying is objectively correct by any means. I just again like my the way I look at it, those three defining pillars are kind of exactly how I feel about Stranger Things. I developed that as I was watching this last season and had already thought of it previously, and it just proves true over time.
Yeah.
I think one of the greatest things about this show was the charm and the mystery. The 80s nostalgia was not one of the best things, but it was one of its pillars, and all three of those became weak by this ending.
But
Um,
to me, I think, and this leads me to another question. I think to me, what really made the show work is its characters. And so I ask you, I actually did a poll like in my friend's Discord server, like a series of polls to decide who is the best Stranger Things character. And I think the Discord came to the correct answer. And I ask you, who is the
Steve,
best Stranger Things character?
Steve
What
the
was
Hair
it?
Harrington.
Steve Harrington. So he came in second place, and I think he is the only other correct answer. But, and I think the finale really gave it to this character to be
It's
the number one. It's Dustin.
it's Dustin. Yeah, I was also thinking that as well. Funny
It,
because
it-
like you think most people would think 11. They'd be like, "Oh, 11," but no, like Dustin is the Stranger Things kid.
yeah, like Millie Bobby Brown is maybe the breakout star, but Dustin is. And like straight up, like all the stuff about kid actors not being good actors as an adult, he proved that shit wrong. The
Hmm.
fucking scene with him and Steve in the stairwell
Hmm.
where he's like, I can't lose someone else. That's the best acting of this whole
Yep.
season.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
straight up, Dustin is a heart of the show. There's like I think, fucking Winona Ryder, Joyce Byers, she was what carried the show. She's
Yeah.
what made the show work that first season. But, Dustin,
Hey,
he is the everything.
Dustin might be the heart, but Steve is the hair.
Yes, he fucking is.
Um, I don't know if you had any other points, but I think I kind of hit through, I rapid fired through my grievances, but in the end, we got what we got enough. We got enough,
Yeah.
and I can walk away from this, feeling okay with how Stranger Things ended.
Yeah, I think we can basically wrap it up here. It's just, talking about the finale. There's a lot of feelings about it, but you know what? I'm I'm happy that I got this show, that I got these characters. And yeah, that's kind of just how I'm gonna look at it.
Love it. Well then, until next time, I'm Robert.
And I'm Ryan.
See ya, folks.
Do, 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 do.